there's a lot of questions people have about how we actually make decisions. So my goal today is to talk a little bit about getting ready for that application process and preparing your application. So hopefully I can kind of take away some of the myth and the mystery that surrounds the process. If I don't answer all of your questions, then feel free to call us at the UVA admissions office. We're more than happy to talk to you during business hours. We always have a dean on call to handle those questions. Alternatively, you can always find me in the vegetable aisle of the Harris Teeter. Happy to answer questions there as well. So, I call my presentation today Admission 101, or Macy's advice for a happy college admissions experience. Because that's really what we want, right? We want to have a clear process, and we want to have it all come to a happy ending. So hopefully today we'll be able to talk a little bit about this process so that it can be a little bit easier on you, a little bit clearer for you to understand exactly how we go about making our decisions. So the first thing that you have to do is choose the schools to which you're applying. And this is a very big job. It's really about making a match. It's a very important decision, and you want to devote the appropriate amount of time to get there. So I consider it kind of like matchmaking. This is like Match.com College Edition. So I want you to spend some time getting to know universities. Events like tonight are a great first step where you can go up and talk to admissions people, pick up a few brochures, and it's a good beginning to that process. You should also check out university websites if you haven't started doing that already. Parents, this is a part of the landscape that has changed fundamentally since you were looking at school. We at UVA have actually taken a pretty big step back in our snail mail campaigns. And where we've kind of made up the difference is through social media, through our websites, through videos, so that students really have the opportunity to get a sense of what it's like to be at UVA. So definitely spend the time looking at the college websites, getting to know who the colleges are in that way. But nothing replaces a visit. So visit as many universities as you can. I think that the best time to visit is actually during the fall of junior or senior year. This is a great time to visit because we actually don't get that many visitors this time of year. We find that during spring break weeks, we're having an increasing number of visitors. During kind of the Albemarle County spring break week, which tends to match with several other counties in Virginia and places across the country, we could have 450 to 500 people in each of our 3 information sessions during that week. I checked the roster today for our information session, and we only had 5 families today. So if you want a little bit more of an individual, personal experience at a school, the fall is a great time to visit. And I will point out that in a few weeks, we do have a teacher workday in Albemarle County. Teacher workdays are great times to come because other counties don't have the same teacher workdays. So you're not going to have the volume of visitors that you can expect during spring break and some of the other big weeks when many students are out of school. Also, and you know this, talk to current students, talk to alumni, talk to the faculty at the different institutions, talk to as many people as you can, and be an advocate for yourself. I think some students feel like, I don't want to ask too many questions. But again, this is a really important decision. So talk to as many people as you can to find out what the experience is like at the different schools. Very importantly, use the resources that your school provides to you. Naviance and some of the other school-based systems are great places to begin understanding the admission requirements for institutions. What type of students from your school have been admitted in the past? It's just a click of the button. Once you get your password and information, you can find out a great deal of information there. Once you've kind of gotten through everything, you need to devise a list of your top schools. I've just helped my nephew with this process. He was feeling a little overwhelmed. And my advice to him was to think about your top 8 schools. 4 of those schools should be, in terms of admission, kind of in a mid-range. Based upon your criteria, based upon what you saw on Naviance, these are schools where you kind of fit the profile academically for these schools. And obviously there are ones where you've looked at and you really love these schools. Then have 2 schools that you would consider to be safety schools, schools that, based upon the admission requirements, you feel like you have a really, really good shot of getting into those schools. And also not just based on Naviance, but through conversations with your counselors. On the other end of the spectrum, have 2 reach schools. If there are schools that you really want to go to, but they might seem a little bit out of reach based upon your academic preparation, it's okay to have a few of those. You don't want that to be the majority of your list, but having a few reach schools is perfectly fine. So this is where CJ and I started with our conversation. And in the end, he has decided to apply to 3 schools that fall in the mid-range, 2 reach schools, 1 safety school, and then he's going to keep the community college option in his back pocket. I definitely encourage you to look at the community college option. Most of the public schools in the state of Virginia have articulation agreements with the Virginia Community College system. We're finding an increasing number of students who are choosing that option for their 4-year degree. So definitely look into that. We have a wonderful community college here in Charlottesville, and it's definitely something that's worth at least an exploration. So as you're going through, think big. I feel like sometimes students focus a little bit too much on kind of the questions of, what's the size? Is it public or is it private? Is it liberal arts or is it research university? They're focusing more on kind of these more data-driven questions. But I want you to look a little bit broader and bigger and think about how you fit in to that university. Would you be challenged there academically? When you go and visit or look at a video on the website about their academic programs, do you get excited about the opportunities that are there? Also, do you feel like you could thrive in the academic environment? And this is where some of the data that you might learn from your guidance counselors or from Naviance might help. How does your academic profile fit with the typical student at this school? Do you feel like this is a place where you could go and thrive and succeed? Do you feel like you could contribute to the school, both in the classroom environment and outside of the environment? And very importantly, do you feel a connection there? We talk a lot about, again, these data-driven points, but at some point, you have to put some weight and value on the feeling you get in your gut when you walk on a college campus. And if it's a good feeling, if you feel like this really is a good match for you, pay attention to that. Because being happy at a university goes a long way to succeeding. So you want to be able to envision yourself as a part of that particular university. So you have your list. You have the universities to which you're going to apply. Now it's time to begin digging deep and trying to really understand the application process at different universities. I will say at the outset that this is a very frustrating part of the process, because what you will find is that every university, exactly every university, has a slightly different admission policy, okay? So you really need to understand a particular school's policy before you apply, okay? The first thing you're going to need to pay attention to are the deadlines. When do you apply? The common deadlines are early decision, early action, regular decision, rolling admission, or open enrollment. An open enrollment school is a community college, essentially, or a school like a community college, where by applying, you are admitted into the school, okay? Rolling admission means that the school will read the applications as they come in through the year, okay? So there's not one set deadline. The university will actually read the applications on an ongoing basis. If a school has rolling admission, make sure you read a little bit more about their policy on rolling admission. Because some schools will preference students who applied earlier on in the process. By the end, once their class is almost full, it could get more competitive, okay? So in situations like that, applying earlier in the year is often a good idea. Now, some schools are going to be deadline-oriented, and UVA is basically deadline-oriented. Every school where I've worked has had deadlines rather than rolling admission. And you'll see early and regular decision deadlines from a lot of schools. You'll see both of those options, okay? So regular admission is kind of the traditional January 1st to February 1st deadline, and notification will be by April 1st, and that's actually a national requirement that we need to notify by April the 1st. Early decision is going to take a lot of different forms based upon the school where you're applying. The two most common that you're going to see are early decision and early action. Early decision is more often than not a binding application process. By applying to a school early decision, you are basically saying that you have decided already to attend that school if you are offered admission. And you actually sign a contract that says, if I'm admitted to this school, I will attend. So that's for the student who has a very high degree of certainty about where they want to go to school, okay? If you're not sure, early decision is definitely not the right choice, okay? Some schools are early action, and incidentally, UVA is an early action school. Basically, early action means that you are not bound to attend UVA by applying. It simply means that we will take action on your application early. And we will notify you of a decision earlier than the April 1st deadline. But you still have the full length of time to determine if you'd like to attend, okay? So you are not bound to attend by applying under an early action plan. But even in early action, you're going to find nuances based upon the school. Some will say if you apply early to us, under early action, you shouldn't apply early action to any other school or early in any program to any other school. And others will say, you know, feel free to apply to as many schools as you want. Again, this is the frustrating part of the process. Make sure you understand the policy of the schools to which you're applying, okay? After you understand the deadlines, you're going to need to understand the requirements, okay? Every school is going to ask for a transcript, which you get from your high school. But other areas, testing, recs, essays, etc., you know, it's going to be school specific. So you want to make sure that you're organized and understand what a specific school is going to ask for. Just about every school is going to ask you for a fee. So you can pretty much guarantee that you're going to have to pay something for the application. Not every school, but most are going to have a fee. And some will have even other requirements that they would like. So again, spend some time looking at the school, looking at the admissions page, understanding what they want. Also pay attention to the instructions that the school provides. If the school says you need to write an essay of 650 words or less, don't write an essay that has 1,000 words in it, okay? That is, the link is actually a part of the assignment for us. We want you to follow those guidelines, those instructions, okay? If a school says, you know, we don't want an essay, and some schools don't ask for an essay, then don't send one, because basically what they're saying is we're not going to have the time to review that document. If, however, a school says an essay is optional, well, you might as well write an essay, because it is an opportunity to add a little bit more information to your application, okay? Pay attention to the number of rec letters that a school wants. It's okay to do a little fudging. If a school says 2 and you absolutely want to have that rec from your soccer coach or, you know, from your drama teacher, typically that's okay. But you don't want to go crazy here. We had a student a few years ago who submitted 37 letters of recommendation. It didn't really help their chances. More information doesn't necessarily make an application a better application, because really we're focused on the information that we ask for, the information that's required. We at UVA ask for you to fill out our common application very fully and completely. We don't provide students with the opportunity to send a resume. We've actually disabled that as a part of the common application for us. But you'd be surprised, the number of students who are still so persistent in mailing or emailing us a resume because they feel like that needs to be a part of their application is incredible. The reason we don't ask for it is that we don't want you to spend your time on that. We want you to spend your time on the application. If you want to tell us about your extracurricular activities, tell it on the extracurricular activity form of the Common App. Because it's a much greater likelihood that I'm going to not see that information on a resume, because every student does their resume in a slightly different way. That's why we want the information on the application. So all this to say, follow the instructions that are listed on the application. So, as I said, this is frustrating. This is a frustrating part of the process because if you have 8 schools, every one of them is going to have a slightly different process, slightly different system. So this is the time to get in touch with your inner organizational nerd and to do a graph. And if you're technology oriented, pull out your good old Excel spreadsheet. If you are not, pull out your yellow pad of paper and go at it. But write down each school and write down the information that you need to submit to them and when you need to submit it. It will, trust me, it'll make your life far less frustrating if you do that. I just gave you an example here of what I would advise for my children to do when they start looking at schools. To write down the college name, write the application deadlines, write the financial aid deadlines, write the type of application that the school uses, the number of essays that they're going to have to write, the number of rec letters that the university wants, what type of testing requirements they have, and if there's anything else that the university would like for them to submit. Put it on paper, and then you don't have to worry about keeping it in your mind and if you're like me, completely losing track of it later on. So it's important to understand what a university wants. And many of them are going to provide you with a checklist so that as you're going through the application process and filling out the application, once you submit a piece of the application, they will show you on your checklist that they've received that particular piece of application, okay? So, and this is an important part of the process, to make sure that you are checking all of the boxes that you need to and very organized about your application process. But there comes a point when you start really digging into your essays, thinking about your rec letters and how to present your extracurricular activities, when you need to stop checking the boxes. I feel that too many students think about the selective admissions process as one of checking the boxes. It is simply about submitting everything that needs to be submitted. Submitted the transcript, check. Submitted the rec letters, check. Taken the SATs, check. Essay, check, 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 check. And the issue with that is that would be a great system for a non-selective university, okay, where you're just looking for whether a student is qualified or not qualified, okay? The nature of selective admissions is that we have more qualified students applying. We have more students applying who present strong academic credentials, who could come to our universities and succeed, than we have places in the entry class. So I am not answering the question, is this student qualified or is this student not qualified, and then admitting all of the qualified students, okay? I am answering the question, who amongst the qualified applicants are we going to select, okay? And that's where the term selective admissions comes from. It is, at the end of the day, it's a process of selection, and it's a process where students benefit from standing out, okay? So the question changes for you too. Okay? It's not just checking the boxes, making sure everything is submitted and that you've submitted your transcript and taken the right courses academically and that you've submitted your extracurricular activities and that you've written an essay and submitted a recommendation letter. That's not what you're trying to do. You're trying to show me how you stand out amongst a group of students who have all checked boxes, okay? So you need to think a little differently about the process. So when we are reading applications, there's a few questions that we're always going to ask ourselves. The first is, have you challenged yourself academically? And anyone who came up to the table at my UVA table earlier today probably heard this from me. We're really concerned with the classes that you're taking. And this is true at every university where I've worked. Program is extremely important because we want to see that you've taken advantage of the challenging courses when they're available at your school. We want students who are passionate academically and who want to take challenging courses. Does that mean that you have to take every AP course that's offered, which was a question I did get in the Harris Teeter? No, I don't even think that's physically possible. But you should take advantage of challenging courses to the extent that you can take them and that you can succeed in them, all right? In particular, we're interested in rigor in the core academic subject areas: English, math, social science, foreign language, laboratory science. This is where we focus our attention, not on the electives. I've had a lot of people ask me, well, my daughter decided to take a study hall. Is she going to be penalized for that? No, I don't even pay attention to it, actually. I don't look at PE. I don't look at those subjects. I'm really interested in these solid academic areas. And I want to see that within the context of what is offered at your high school, that you've taken advantage of challenging courses in those subject areas. So we spend a lot of time with your transcript, understanding what you've taken and understanding the progression of your courses and your success academically. And here, this is important, guys. I get a lot of questions about our average grade point. And the fact is we don't have an average GPA that we're looking for. Because, first of all, every school across the country has a slightly different way of calculating grade point average. So we make sure that when we're looking at a student's academic record, we're looking within the context of their school. There really is no local, state, national comparison across grade points for us, okay? We're going to look within the context of the school. But also, a student within a school, two students might have the same grade point average. One student might have made stronger grades early on in school, and their grades have kind of declined, perhaps, a little bit later on in school. They might have taken a challenging course, but that's not kind of what dominates the program that we see, okay? So the strong grades came earlier on in school, and it got a little bit rockier later on in school, even though the program didn't really see maybe a bump. The second student might have struggled a little bit earlier on in school, but their grades show an upward trend, an upward progression, and their coursework is demonstrating more rigor. So those two students might land on the same grade point average at the end of the day, but the story that their transcript shows me is going to be really different. So I'm going to look at those students in a slightly different way. So all this to say, it's really not about grade point average. It's about how you've taken advantage of what's offered in your school and how you've succeeded within that context. Again, I get a lot of questions about college admissions, but the one I probably get more often than not is about program rigor. Should I take this course or that course? What would you advise me to do in my senior year for my program? How should I do this? And that's a very hard question for an admissions person to answer, because at the end of the day, it really depends upon you and how you can succeed in those courses. The best thing I can tell you is to try to find a good program performance balance. take the strongest classes you can without having your grades take a dive. Really challenge yourself to the extent that you can, but you don't want to see a major dip happen in your grades. But generally, academics, how you've done 5 days a week over the course of your high school career is going to be a very important piece, the most important piece of the puzzle for us. Now, we're also going to be interested in how you contribute in the classroom, okay? So grades give us a good quantitative sense of your success in the classroom. But they don't really give me too much of a sense of how you interact with your classmates and what you contribute to the classroom environment. And that's important to us as well. So for us, rec letters are going to play an important role. Now again, not every university is going to require a rec letter, but those that do are trying to answer the question, how have you contributed in the classroom? Okay? It gives us a qualitative sense of success in the classroom. What qualities do you bring that make the classroom a better place? And I actually think it's one of the more underestimated aspects of the application. Students don't think it's as important as it is. Probably every student in this room could submit Hello? Okay. I'm just going to try to talk loud. It seems like I lost the mic here. Okay? I bet every student in this room could get a strong letter of recommendation from one of your teachers. And in fact, 99% of those that I read are strong. They talk about dedicated, hardworking, motivated students. Okay? But that's the majority. Again, this is a process of standing out. How do you stand out from others? So the rec letters that are going to make the difference are those that are going to go into greater depth about what you bring to the classroom environment that's unique and distinctive. In which classrooms are you the classroom leader? In which classrooms are you helping students who might be struggling with an assignment? In which classes are your teachers going to be able to tell us stories about how you've distinguished yourself, either through your writing, or through your problem set work, or through your depth of analysis, or through your growth, okay? So it's not just about choosing the teacher you like the best. It's about choosing the teacher who is going to be best able to tell me how you stand out in an academic environment. And it should be from an academic teacher, okay? Now, universities are also interested in what you contribute outside the classroom. And this is where extracurricular activities come into play. There is no golden ticket extracurricular activity, okay? There's no one thing that we're looking for. Parents, I know when I went through school, and then we're in the same age group, when all of us went to school, the big thing was talking about the well-rounded student. The student who did community service and student government and sports and the arts. But that's not what we're interested in today. We want you to follow your passion. Do the things you love. But do them at a point or at a level at which you're making an impact. That's what we're interested in. We're interested in what contributions, meaningful contributions are you making outside of school, okay? One of my colleagues had an applicant this year write on our extracurricular list, bridesmaid. It's one of our extracurricular activities. And, I'm sure she was a beautiful bridesmaid, but that's really not giving me a sense of what you contribute outside the classroom. It's just something to fill the space, to fill the line. What I'm interested in is what you do that makes a difference. So, in that regard, think broadly about how you make a contribution. Some students forget to tell us that they work. But work is absolutely a contribution to yourself and to your family. So make sure you let us know if you work and how many hours a week that you're working. Let us know that. That's a contribution to your family, okay? Those are the type of things that will matter to us. So don't think about just filling a space with something that looks like an things that you do day to day, the ways that you're making an impact and a contribution, and talk to us about it in a meaningful way. Okay? That's what we're interested in. And finally, we're trying to understand what type of person you are. Schools have a lot of different ways of getting to this. Recommendation letters certainly are one way. We're also going to get a sense of this through your essay or through interviews. Some schools will offer an interview process, others don't. And some schools will offer the opportunity to write an essay. This is your chance to speak to me. And it is the one time when I'm reading an application when I'm going to sit back in my chair and listen. It's not about writing the essay you think the college admissions officer wants to hear, okay? It's not about trying to show me that you're smart. The essay should be about telling me who you are in one way or another. You should use your voice, and you should tell your essay in a story format. Too many students get caught up with the idea of writing kind of that formal 5-paragraph essay. We get an opening paragraph with a thesis statement, 3 supporting paragraphs, and a conclusion. Soccer is important to me. It's taught me leadership and perseverance and the value of a strong work ethic. There's my thesis statement. First paragraph tells me a story about how soccer taught leadership. Second paragraph tells me a story about how soccer taught perseverance. Third paragraph tells me a story about how soccer taught the value of a strong work ethic. And then you close it up and tell me how all of these things will contribute to UVA. Or if the essay isn't edited well, you'll tell me how all of these things will contribute to William and Mary. Not William and Mary, not that interested though. So there's nothing wrong with this format, but can you see that I could read the thesis statement and get the whole point of the essay? You're kind of giving me an easy out there. And it's not going to be an essay that's going to stand out. Soccer is actually a very fine topic. Most topics are very fine. It's really not about the topic, it's about how you approach your topic, okay? So if you want to write about soccer, great. But don't write so broadly and so formally, okay? Make it a more creative endeavor. And think about the one thing that soccer has taught you. Maybe that's leadership. And then think about maybe the one experience where you really learned leadership, the experience that illustrates that best. And tell me that story. Maybe it was, you were in a tournament and it was raining and you were down by a goal and, your team was looking to you. That's where you begin your essay, okay? At that moment, all right? So make it more of a story, make it more detail-oriented, and use your voice, okay? So these are the different questions that universities are answering. It's, again, not a process of checking the boxes. It's a process of showing us how you stand out in the world. Okay? All right, I'm going to end there. I think I'm out of time. Do I have time for questions, or are you ready to dismiss? Okay, so the other sessions are beginning, but thank you for your time.